We're going to get started. This webinar today it's actually a fun topic for summer. It's about personality salesmanship and the way that and they use salesmanship to get position and to do quite a few things in your career and also to advance. And this is something that honestly the most successful people in every profession are able to do by using their personality to really quite a bit in their career. And just at the outset, I've noticed people that are able to do this, what I'm talking about, not only do better in their job, they do better other people. And often by understanding the message that I'm talking about today, they're able to have much better. So this is about really, in my opinion, one of the more important things that people can do in their careers in order to ultimately. A couple of years ago, I was reading some articles about Vanity Fair, about New York Times, and the Village Voice, and all these various publications about a man named Joe Andys. And this is just an excerpt of a profile about him from a 2006 article in Vanity Fair. This is in the early 1990s. A man named Joe Andys began showing up in the bar at the Pierre, which is a very posh hotel on the corner of Fifth Avenue, 51st Street. He liked the crowd there, but the real draw for him was Kathleen Landis, who was a woman who played the piano and did there 5 nights a week. And he was always there 5 nights a week as well. He'd sit at the same table in the front lobby with her, back to her, and then he drank good Kirkhoff champagne, which is very expensive. And he usually ordered a bottle, and then he would order a glass of Berlin as well. He also dressed very well. He wore British-made suits and ties from Turbo Nasser, which is no longer out of business. It's a very nice tie place back then. And he had an English accent and trimmed beard, and he looked very distinguished. He was very free with champagne, and he seemed like almost like a tycoon and who lived very well. And they thought he was just a very rich person that was very successful. And so they decided to figure out who he was. A lot of people asked what he did for a living. No one was actually brave enough to ask live, but people asked him what he did. He would say, I sell potato peeling. And people would chuckle about that and believe that it wasn't true. But in reality, he pushed his gear through the street and basically a trolley and did something. And people would stop by and they would stay in a lot of lines through the salesman in New York. And the reason that all these magazines and publications were paying so much attention to him was because he was able to make a very good living just walking down the street. Imagine this, in this city of millions of people walking down the street in the cart selling potato peeling. You have to think about this and how amazing this is. And I'm going to talk to you about why he did it and how he did it. But when he finally died, all these newspapers around the world were stories about it. He lived in a giant apartment on Park Avenue. He would go out to eat the best restaurants, and he would do all this by selling potato peelers on the street. You're walking down the street selling potato peelers. But when you think about this and what I'm going to talk to you about today, why this is such a kind of an amazing thing, that there was really nothing unusual about what he was doing and how it made him successful. And what he was doing is really something that 99% of all job seekers and just people in general out there don't do and don't understand. And what I'm going to talk to you about today is how you can be like this person and be very successful in both your personal and your professional life if you understand what he did and what you need to do. I'm going to talk to you about what I believe are one of the most powerful and fun job search and funding strategies you're ever going to learn. And in fact, it's very, very simple. And it's something that almost no one learns, but in a decade of doing this job, I've seen people succeed doing it, and I've seen people that don't do it not succeed. And I have honestly no idea why people don't do this, because if you learn about this, you can make just an incredible difference in your career, your job search. And if you understand this, what I'm going to talk about, regardless of what you end up doing in your legal career, you'll have the time and the money to go to the restaurant and live the way you want. And anybody can. It's very easy. People that don't do this don't most of the time. And if you can do this, you're going to be able to get the jobs you want, and you can live and work anywhere you want. Honestly, I'm not kidding. And almost every single profession, people out there, I'm going to give you examples today of people that you know, but the most successful people out there, literally every profession, understand this. I'm going to make you understand it. Well, obviously, when we're talking about people selling potato peelers on the street and doing all these things, obviously the most important thing that they're doing is salesmanship. They're being able to sell themselves and sell whatever idea or product that they have. And this salesmanship is really the most important thing for you to understand about selling yourselves, about getting your point across to the right people. And if you know how to do this, you're never going to fail. You could take anybody and you could drop them in any city, like the most successful city in the world, and they would succeed. And with this ability, if you understand this, you're always going to do well. Every single person that understands this does well. And it's something that is important for you to understand. So when you're looking for any type of position, the biggest weapon you have, I think as a recruiter, I would say that your most important task is to get in front of an employer. You have to apply. But when you're in your application, in your interviews and into getting to interviews and after interviews and following up from starting your job, and your most important, your biggest weapon is salesmanship. And it's something that for whatever reason, attorneys really overlook and miss on looking for a job. When I talk to, I'll talk to older attorneys that have succeeded at meaning they've been practicing for 15, 20 years or longer than 10 years. Like they always seem to really have the ability to sell themselves to get a job, regardless business, they're able to sell themselves. If they don't have business, they're able to sell themselves, but they understand it. So it's almost, this is what helps them survive, and they develop these skills. But obviously attorneys that are bringing in business and doing that develop much more than others. Oftentimes I'll see junior associates or mid-level associates that are disillusioned with the practice of law, and they just don't understand it yet. And they will go into interviews and they will think that they don't have to sell themselves, that they just have to, they're there to do the work, and they can certainly say they can do it, but there's a lack of enthusiasm times, and they're not making a really good effort to sell themselves, talk about how to do it. But you need to find out what any employer that you want to get a job with needs. You need to understand what they're like, why they have a need. You need to make them trust you, which is not easy to do. And then you need to really figure out how to stand out and sell yourself when the employer sees your application and they see you in a way that makes them want to hire you. And all of these things are very important. A great number of people, most people don't do all those things. I'll see people think that they just understand what the job is, and then that's good enough. They don't think about how they want to go in and look credible and get trust. They don't understand how to make their application stick out and be seen in a way that makes the law firm want to act and hire you. This is something that the best marketers and salespeople in the world understand, and it can be learned. And learning to sell is really very, very important in your job search in life. Watch politicians. Like politicians will always watch any politics. And the current election, watch kind of two main candidates, one kind of outside candidate. Everybody is trying to sell themselves in a certain way. Ultimately, the person that sells themselves the best and gets people riled up the most, and they're going to win. And all this, it's important in politics. It's important for companies having products. It's important for attorneys selling themselves. It's important for getting clients. And this is not too hard for anyone to get a resume together and go on an interview and have the employer think this person looks like they'd be a good employee. That's something that most people can do. And this is something that they go in and they look the part of what the employer wants in order for them to hire it. What you want to do is a little bit different. You want your resume and a background to stick out for the employer to say, this sounds fantastic. Like, you look awesome. Where can you start? Because most people make decisions in the emotional part of their brain. People often have reasons that they explain their purchases that sound rational, but give reasons why they think returning is great higher. But that when people buy something, people buy a car, they'll say, oh, but it does this well, it does this well. But really what they're buying is how that car makes them feel. So you have to figure out how something makes you feel as opposed to how you're just buying randomly for a job. And I'm going to talk more about this, but you want people to really connect with you and feel strongly about you and like you. And you need to sell yourself in a way that other people don't. I had this interesting experience where I was in this business organization, and then we'd have all those people trying to come in and be part of this business organization. And in order to get into the business organization, they need to have certain qualifications and that sort of thing in order to get in. So a lot of people think if I have the qualification, then they should get into this organization. And I had an experience a couple of weeks ago where someone showed up and didn't really sell themselves. They just were a little with the people there, and they just didn't feel like they needed to sell themselves and got rejected. So this is what happened in law firm. Like if you go into an interview with the law firm and you think it's enough for me to show up and I can do the work, no one is going to, that doesn't really do anything. That doesn't make people want to hire you if there's better people there. Just because you have the background for a job doesn't mean the employer is ever going to hire you. Just because you have a good qualifications doesn't mean the employer is going to hire you. In fact, a lot of that get hired don't even have the best qualifications. They're just like that. People feel more comfortable about it. They sell them on the fact that they're going to try hard and do a good job. And there's all these things that the best people do that average people don't. And that's why certain people get hired that don't even have as good a qualification. It's not about your qualification, about selling your stuff and making people like you. The dumbest thing that I see consistently is I see people with great qualifications on paper that expect people to hire them. And it's just, it does mean something maybe when you're competing with other law students for jobs, but it means very little when you get out. There's other people that are similarly qualified. The people that get jobs, often get jobs even when they're not qualified, is the most qualified because people like them. They sell themselves, and their ability to sell themselves gets people jobs. Same thing with service providers. I'm in the process, for example, of listing a house for sale, and there were three realtors. I was there. One realtor. I think this is interesting, like how this whole thing worked. So one realtor was a very good realtor, and she showed up with cookies and this big binder that was leather, that contained all this information about her and how great she was, and then all these powerful sales, and then all these forms to fill out, and made a very good impression. But then when I pressed her, I called her up after her presentation, and I asked her questions about one issue and how she would handle it. And she said, I need to check with my broker. And I never heard back from her. And she just got very discouraged. And so she was able to sell herself initially, but then she would follow up. And I connected with her, but she came into the equation with some doubt, meaning she did a good job selling herself, but then she pointed out, what's that? Wait, hold on. Let me restart my camera. It's not good. This is just really bizarre. It's camera problems. Anyway, so she came in and sold herself, but not quite as well as she could have. She pointed out some issues with the property, but that was about it. Then there was another realtor that I was interested in potentially working with. I had met him about a year previously. He was going to get back to me about something he never did. But the year previously, walked around his house, and then he contacted him and said I was interested in selling his house. And he came back and said, oh, I have a couple houses to look at. And then I asked him if he could do a little bit more in terms of listing it. I was like, what was his opinion? And he said, I don't need to come by and see it. I saw it a year ago. I'll send you a list. And then, so he was a very good realtor, but I was a little disappointed that he didn't want to come by and see it. He believed that having come by a year ago was sufficient and showing me a few houses. Then it was a third realtor. And this realtor is actually a very little realtor. He's, believe it or not, he's chauffeured around in a Rolls Royce, what do you call it? A Rolls Royce SUV, whatever that's called. And when I told him I was interested in selling the house, the first thing he said was, I have a bunch of houses I'd like you to see. So he took me out to visit a bunch of houses. And then after that, he came by the house and looked around. And then he said, I need to come back with this stager. And he came back with the stager, and the stager made all the suggestions about changing paint colors, recovering couches, rearranging things, taking things out, moving wallpaper, like all these things. And since that time, before it's even been listed, which has been like a month, he's come by 3 times with this person and is making all these suggestions about all the changes he made. And at the same time, every time he comes by, he's meeting with us and bonding and that sort of thing. And this realtor, by the way, is incredibly successful. He's got plenty, but there's jets, and then there's like big jets, like these airliners that you fly on and you're going between cities, commercial airliners. And he has one of those that he uses to travel around. But either he would pay the money in taxes or pay for that. That's not funny. But the idea is that this very successful person, probably one of the most successful, if not the most successful realtor in the United States, all these things, like bonds with you by showing your property, doesn't find fault with anything, makes sure he comes by and sees the property and then sees it like 3 or 4 times to make all these suggestions. And so by the time you're ready to sign this agreement, it's completely on one person's side because they've sold themselves and what they're doing in a very effective way. And I want you to understand like how successful what this person does, but not only is the person's personality, but they're making sure that they connect with you, that they do things right, that they give you reasons to use them, and they do things that are much, much different with other people doing the same thing. And they're able to sell something where other people won't. And because of the type of properties this guy sells, his commissions are often like $1,000 just selling one property. And so he is more successful than other people because of this ability to sell himself and to sell his product, which results in making tens of millions of dollars or more, I'm sure, per year by doing something differently and by selling himself in a way that other people simply aren't. And so you need to be doing the same thing. Like, how do you stick out among other attorneys that are applying the same job? How do you stick out among other attorneys going after the same business? How do you sell yourself in your own firm by looking like the best person to do the work? When you get someone to hire you, which is actually a very big deal, like you get them to hopefully spend time with you for years. This is what happens in law firms. And trust you with their clients in the future of law firms, continue to pay your salary regardless of business ups and downs, give you health insurance or vacation time. This is, anytime you're going after a significant job, this is actually a very big deal. Like, you have to understand like what you're doing. You're not just applying for a job, you're applying for someone to pay you. You're applying for someone to allow you to work on their clients. If you're a young attorney, now you're applying to get trained. There's a lot going on. And then anytime you're applying for a job, you need to realize that getting hired, you need to realize that getting hired and closing the deal actually requires quite a bit of salesmanship and an important salesmanship, meaning you can go very far, but the better you sell yourself, the better you sell clients. This stuff is extremely important. And most people don't understand it. Most people think that clients should just come to them, or jobs should just come to them. And they certainly aren't the sort of person that would be out on the street like this guy selling potato peelers. But you can do very well with this sort of attitude and sort of psychology of what you're doing. It's huge. I know attorneys that get a lot of business, and I even knew one attorney that was very funny, and he has a lot of business. I think he decided he wanted to represent Google and showed up at their offices to talk to like their general counsel, which is just ludicrous. I think they had some issue that he could have helped with, but this is the sort of confidence that people that are very good do when they're trying to get business. So I'm going to teach you today about the salesmanship and I think that if you understand what I'm talking about, which I think you will, it's not that difficult to understand. I think you can definitely change the course of your legal career and your experience with hunting for jobs forever. I mean, when you understand this, you will be able to get business, you'll be able to really change your legal career and how to find and get jobs. And I'm going to show you what the most successful people I know do in order to close deals and get hired. So law firm candidates legal landscape is littered with attorneys that have failed. It's crazy. I don't know why people come out of law school not understanding the sort of stuff. I see resumes every day. If I'm looking at 100 resumes in a day, I will see probably that have failed for one reason or another. They just haven't gotten the right jobs. They moved between different things. They haven't found security. They haven't advanced. Like all these things happen to so many people. And the reason this particular topic is so incredibly important is because you do not want to be part of that pile of resumes, which is 80% plus of resumes that have failed. Now, when I say they failed, I don't mean that the person hasn't been able to get some sort of job or another, but they're never in a position where they're necessarily in charge of their career. The majority of attorneys are not in charge of their career. Someone else is in charge of their career. Whoever hires them is in charge of their career. The legal market that they may be in, the city or whatever they view as in charge of their career, or the practice they're in charge of their career. Instead of them being in charge of their career, the only way to be in charge of your career is if you're able to sell yourself and really sell yourself to clients, know how to get out of any situation. When I find attorneys looking for jobs, it's often crazy. Like and more often than not, like they don't know what to do and they're paralyzed. I think they need to be a perfect fit for a job on LinkedIn or what BCG, wherever they're looking. And they don't understand like how to get into places, how to get hired, and how to sell themselves. And a lot of these people, they live in poverty and they don't live well. They don't get hired. I see people like all the time that are living in areas where they're living a life that doesn't make any sense. Like they may have graduated or the course from a top law school, and 7 years on, they're doing nothing and they're not living well as well as they could. They're not, and it's not just about living well and how much money you make, but it's about not having a sense of purpose that drives you to do something or feeling dejected. The people that don't tell themselves will often feel very dejected by the world. They won't understand why people will buy them. They just don't care. And it's crazy. It's a psychology that permeates so many attorneys, and they go into their job search without a purpose, without an interest, a passion. Most people in different practice areas, you'll find a lot of times trademark attorneys just passionate about what they're doing. You'll find commercial litigators who are passionate about what they're doing. You might find the majority of people in certain practice areas, workers' comp defense or insurance defense without passion for what they're doing. Then the personal injury attorney might have passion for doing. The immigration attorney would have passion. You need to, in order to sell yourself, you need to have a good amount of passion for whatever it is you're doing. Because if you don't have that passion and you're just like this dry person that does work, then it's no fun. Would you like working with someone that didn't enjoy themselves and couldn't sell you on it? This is what you need to do. You need to be able to achieve you're able to achieve more if you're able to sell yourself. And so many people don't. They don't achieve everything they're capable of. They don't get the jobs they should, and they don't have access to the same opportunities others who actually understand salesmanship. It's very funny too. And if you're in a law firm, I'm sure that you notice this, but it's just the way it is. There are partners with business that are able to go out and sell clients. And then there are the people that do the work. The people that do the work could be junior associates, mid-level associates, senior associates, counsel, partners without business. But the people that are out there selling, bringing in work, are always in power. They're always in control. And the people, regardless of how successful they are, meaning in terms of their background, the firms that live in or work in, they're always going to be hostage to the people that have the work. If you go to work in a company and you're always going to be hostage to the company unless you can sell yourself and move up the chain, closer to the general counsel, and become the general counsel, and then plus the CEO. The only people that are doing anything and that are happy and that are in control of their careers, now, not always, but the people that are able to sell themselves have a tremendous advantage over the people that are a tremendous one. And it's a huge advantage. So you need to start thinking of yourself as someone who's able to sell themselves, to get others enthusiastic about you and the work you do, as opposed to someone who's just there doing the work, because people need people to do the work, but the world needs people that are able to advance. If you understand salesmanship, then you're able to persuade an interviewer to hire you more than any other attorney they interview. I have people that go on 10, 15 interviews and don't get a job. And then I have other people that go on 5 interviews, 6 interviews and get everything. And it's because they're able to sell themselves. They walk into a room and of the interviewer, they look them in the eyes, they portray profound abilities of competency in terms of the way they talk about things. They make sure the person likes them. They get very excited. Get the person very excited. If you understand these basics of salesmanship, then you have the ability to persuade any of you or to hire you more than any other attorney they interview. When people are talking about who they want to hire, what they say most of the time when they're comparing you to other people is they're saying that they want to hire the person that they like the most, that seems the most enthusiastic, basically sells themselves on the position. And if you don't do that, then unless there's not other candidates, you're generally not going to get hired. If you understand how to sell yourself and you learn about how to sell yourself, you're going to do incredibly well, in your time more well and better than people that don't. And just, it's interesting, several years ago, I wanted to hire people from UCLA Law School, and I was interested in hiring a first-year attorney, meaning someone just out of law school, to work in my company, doing very extensive research and helping with different things. So they sent me the resumes of, I don't know what it was, UCLA, the economy was great at the time, but they sent me the resumes of like maybe 10 people from the class that were in LA, didn't have jobs. And so they came by the interview, and without an exception, they weren't enthusiastic. They just sat there. Their handshakes were cold. They had no potential interest one way or another in working there. They were just showing up. And I assume that's the way they had approached all of their interviews up until that point, with a complete lack of enthusiasm. And if you see people that are able to get jobs, I'm sure in the ones that get the best jobs, I'm sure you can see that enthusiasm and ability that they have to sell themselves. And there's a lot of books about how to sell, and I'm not really talking about that. So many of them, they come out like almost like clockwork every couple of months with some bestseller. And so I'm not going to teach you about that. When I was younger, I read a lot about salesmanship, but one of the most important things of selling and about your ability to get a position and to get clients is to have a personality. If you have a personality, then everything becomes in place. You need to develop personality. And if you go and do an interview and are able to have a personality, you're going to do much, much better than the people that don't have a personality. Stick out. The same thing like making your cover letter. Like, how does your cover letter? Does your cover letter read like something that just every attorney writes, or just a personality? What does it say? And so attorneys that have the best personalities, typically there are firms that don't have personalities, and their attorneys don't have personalities, but in general, the attorneys that have the best personalities end up getting hired and getting jobs, and they know how to stand out. They stand out even if they don't believe that they have the best qualification for the job. They almost always are able to stand out and use most of the time for having a personality. We like people with personality. We don't, people that are dry and flat and aren't excited, don't seem interesting, don't seem fun or quirky in their own way are not necessarily the people that people are interested in. And my career, I've interviewed tons of boring lawyers, and the lawyers without enthusiasm. They talk the same, they often act the same, they're often boring. And what's funny is the first attorney, one of the most interesting attorneys I ever interviewed. I ended up marrying because I was like, the personality is just so interesting and so much enthusiasm compared to the average lawyer. I then married her. If I meet any attorney with a lot of personality, I get excited if they know they'll do well. I had a interesting case that I was several years ago, and there was this thing here at Valid, but it was in Texas, and I hired this law firm that had all of these. It was small, it was like 5 or 6 attorneys, I don't know, maybe a little, and they all had these just incredible academic qualifications. Like they went to the best law school, did the best there, and I thought myself so fortunate, represented by such smart people. And so I noticed when I would talk to them about legal matters in the case, they would always just recite the law, and there was no real enthusiasm about selling my point of view, or it was just very flat and dry. And I was wondering, like, why are these attorneys like so successful, or I was assuming they were barriers. And then I remember I went into court with them, and we had this appeal or something where our issues were very clearly something that we should have won. And the other side got up, and the attorney was bouncing all over and had tons of enthusiasm, and then used all his time. And I was full. I had this guy's better. And then my attorney got up and seemed nervous and spoke for only a couple of minutes and then sat down. And so I saw that he didn't know how to sell himself. And then I realized that all the attorneys in this firm, despite great qualifications, they had never learned how to sell them. So they were all there, I guess, talking about their time in law school or whatever, years ago, but it never developed any sort of sales ability, which meant that they probably did not work from the largest clients. And it also meant that they ended up not giving their clients the best service they possibly could because they weren't selling themselves. If you have a good personality and it comes through and people pick it up, regardless of what you're going to do, you're going to do very well. You're going to get more jobs, and you're going to get clients. People are going to gravitate towards you because of your enthusiasm and ability for that to come through. And just think about who you would want to hire if you had any issue, if you were wanting to do some work around in your house, or you were wanting to hire an attorney or a doctor. I mean, someone that you liked, connected with, had a personality would jump out to you, and that would be who you would want to hire. You wouldn't want to hire someone who was flat and dull and not excited about what they were doing. Now, when I talk about the type of people that have personality, it doesn't mean that you have to be someone that is a salesman like you might think of in traditional terms. It can be that you just have an incredible amount of passion for your practice area. You like it, or you really like the firm you're at, or you sound interesting, and those sorts of things. I remember I used to be interested in college admissions so long ago, then I'm not more. But what happens a lot of times with college admissions or some law schools, not college admissions, a lot of times are going to have a bunch of people that are basically very similar. They have same grades and GPAs, type schools and things. So the people often that jump out at the office of admission people are the people that have the most personality coming and the most interesting. And then the people that don't, they think are not interesting. And there are stereotypes you've seen with lawsuits against different schools for different admissions things. And there's stereotypes of different types of people not having personalities, like people that might want to be engineers. I don't know, but the schools ultimately want to admit people that they like, and the people that we like are the people that have something special about them, that have a personality that seem interesting. And it's like that with thinking. We like that. We do the same thing with movie stars or sports people. We want the people that are more interesting and get us excited. We want to read about them and different types of websites and things, to hear what they're doing that's interesting to us. We like people that are interesting and have personality. We don't like people that are boring. The world's looking for people that have good personalities and that stand for something or are interesting. So you need to move away from the idea that law is an academic profession and that's the only thing that matters. You need to actually be in a position where you figure out how to have a personality and understanding what that means in the legal profession and what it means for your career, what it means for getting business. Several years ago, a large law firm hired me to a very prestigious law firm to go out and find them a certain type of attorney. And they gave me 45 upfront to go hire this particular or find them this particular type of attorney. And I got the retainer from the firm that I met. Went into the office. It was firm in Los Angeles. They were based in Los Angeles. And I met the managing partner, and the person that was the head of the entire firm. And he's very well known. He's quoted in legal periodicals and stuff all the time. A very powerful attorney. And he was also young, and I think in probably his early 40s. And that I unusual. And he also was very tan. And so when he walked into this meeting room, he had his teeth, a little bit of a dark room, and his teeth appeared to glow. And he was like very happy. He was just animated and able to connect, and almost seemed a little bit too happy to be an attorney. And then after the meeting, there was another partner that I stayed in the office with, and I had another discussion about him. And that partner walked me down into actually, I think we both walked down to the parking garage. And I asked the partner, what is he interested in? And the partner said, tanning. And I was like, what are you talking about? And the partner said, he loves tanning. He loves tanning beds. He has a tanning bed at home. He likes to go tanning at lunch. What he's all about is tanning. He's passionate about tanning. And it was very funny. We're in this like wood panel room in the law firm. It was very quiet. Just hear the ventilation system, and there was nice art on the walls. And it was a very serious law firm atmosphere. But what I was hearing just seemed completely at odds. This guy that was supposedly leading this firm that was very serious in a well-known national firm, passionate about tanning. And it seemed very funny. And then I started calling and talking to partners around Los Angeles about this law firm. And they said stuff like, yeah, I know the firm. Isn't that the one where the managing partner loves tan? And they thought that it'd be funny to go, what, we're interview there. This guy, the head of the firm, is all in tanning. And I just thought it was very strange because it's not typically when you think of serious law firms, this is the last thing in the world that you're going to think. And this partner was single and funny, driving like a Corvette convertible that people in Los Angeles don't really drive. He's funny. And he was very well known in the legal community because of love of tanning. And so I want you to understand like what's interesting about this. I remember when I was applying to colleges, this advisor of mine said, no one that gets into, he was talking about like Harvard, Stanford, and Yale, places like that, or Princeton, it's just like a number. Like they have something interesting that sticks out about it. One guy last year got to Harvard. I had okay grades, but he was passionate about bugs and had this great bug collection and had been doing that for a long time. Someone else that got into Stanford or the stand median from the time you were 16. The people, which have nothing to do, by the way, with practice law, with being at college, just as bug collection, I guess it might. But anyway, so this guy that's interested in tanning, there's just something about them that sticks out. And he became one of the youngest managing partners with a major law firm. And people loved him. They thought that his ability to be unique and serious about this was something that was funny. And when you have an image of somebody like that maybe they are concerned about their looks, which certainly is not abnormal in Los Angeles, who loves relaxing. And it's just completely at odds what people would think of when they're thinking about someone who's leading this major international law firm. But it makes him stick out, and it makes him memorable, and it makes him unusual. It shows he has personality. It's just not a normal attorney. Not suggesting never would be intended, but it's just very interesting that someone like that advances so quickly by being themselves and having a personality. It's very important to understand this. Like this is someone that is unique, and as long as he's bringing in business and working hard and doing his job, people are going to like to have somebody that has something that sticks out. And I want to just back up too. And I want you to think about personality and what that means, like in a political stance. What happened when there's different people with different personalities? I remember I used to have, I was from this big screen of TV in our office, and I don't know, it was on this chair. So I was standing down or talking with them. And this is back when Trump was running for the first time. And he just had this incredible personality. And I'm not saying I agree with him or anything or disagree with him. I'm not, purpose not to be political here, but he would just say, Jeb Bush had low energy. This person was that. It was very, very funny. And not funny, but he was able to get rid of all of these people challenging him when he was just a businessman and not a career politician, and then make all these outrageous statements. And so that's personality. And in personality, the political sphere can work. It's the same thing with powerful business people. Certainly Elon Musk is not sitting behind a big wooden desk and a quiet. He's out there. He's got personality. You know what it stands for. People like him. It's got clear. He's got all these stances on free speech, and then he's interested in space, and he's interested in neurointelligence. So a lot of personality. It's not a normal person. People respect that. People respect personality. And because of that personality, I'm sure his businesses have probably done much better than if they didn't. So that's important. And then when you decide to be something interesting yourself, unique stuff starts to happen in your career. If you put some personality in your legal resume in your interviews, you're going to be far ahead than anybody when you compete with a job. I remember I once heard, I think it was Tony Robbins, and he was talking about, he can always tell when he goes into a country, if there's two people, and he talks in different countries, if there's two people running to be president, he always can tell who's going to win. It's always going to be, if you compare two candidates, it's going to be the one that looks the part is one thing, but also has the most personality that people are going to connect with, that they stand for something. You know who they are. And then they have this kind of quirky personality. And if you have that, then you're going to do very well. It's important in politics. It's important in your job search. It's important in your career. And you have to be unique. If you're unique and something sticks out about you, in your personality, and you have a personality when you go into interviews, you're going to do much better than if you don't. Because law firms typically receive tons of resumes for unsolicited and solicited, and to interview people on an ongoing basis. And you have to think about what's interesting to you about what's interesting to you about that person? What is it that makes them stand out? And you have to, from your standpoint, would you want to interview someone who's not interesting? Would you want to hire someone with no personality? And then if you had to spend an hour of your time interviewing someone, you'd probably prefer to interview someone that was very interesting compared to someone who is not so interesting and boring. I remember years ago, I was interviewing people to be meetings, and people would come in and they would be very serious. And, I'm a nanny, that's what I do. And then they had one woman come in to interview, and she said she was interested in yoga and dance and cooking and live foods and all these sorts of things. And it was much more interesting than the person she was placing, and also any other people that I interviewed, because there was a personality, there was something behind that this person and this brand. A lot of times when you interview people, like you ask them, you try to get what their interests are, what do they like? And a lot of times people have no interest. They have nothing that drives them. They're not enthusiastic about any particular area of law. They're just nothing that interesting in them. And then those people typically, the best things don't happen to them. You want to have a legal resume that's read. Your resume needs to go to get people's attention. So you need to think about, how does your personality compare? Now, your personality in your resume comes through in a lot of ways. It comes through if you just go off a million tangents in your resume and it doesn't make any sense, then your personality is unfocused. If your resume is focused, then people like that. If you look like you've done fun things in the past that may not detract from your being an attorney, people like that as well. I had something very interesting happen not too long ago, like maybe 3 or 4 months ago. I had this candidate that had failed the bar in California, I think 5 or 6 times. And she'd gone to an okay law school, like at Loyola, Los Angeles or something. And so she had, her resume started off with law clerk at this smallish firm, literally just said law clerk. And then it had 3-year stretch, during which she found the bar 5 or 6 times, which not, California is very hard bar. And if you don't study a lot for it, then you can certainly fail at that many times. But so she done that. And then she went on to decided she was going to go to cooking school and went on to become a cook and then opened a restaurant that failed. But during that time, she decided that she was going to go back, or she got it back and taking the bar on the past. Her first job that she got, to my astonishment, and I wasn't working with her then, was at a national law firm, not a bad one, a decent national law firm that did all company facing work, didn't do insurance defense or anything. It was just like a real law firm that had written, one of the 200 largest law firms in the country. I was astonished. I was, how did this even happen? And I think that she may have, I don't know how she explained her first job with failing the bar 6 times. If she got this job, and they thought this was just fantastic that she had been a cook, and how interesting that was. She'd done this after, and it was like, this is crazy. And so then, of course, she went to this firm, and she was there not very long, like 6 or 9 months. And so I talked to her, and I was like, what happened? She basically couldn't really articulate it, think like a lawyer, couldn't really articulate it, but said that her work was bad and people stopped giving her work, and then she was fired. Well, okay. So this woman, keep this in mind, she's been out, I don't know, law school like 10 or 12 years, been fired for a job for not passing the bar 6 times, then finally had a restaurant that she started to fail. And that's why she goes back to practicing law. And then meanwhile comes to me as a recruiter to help her. Now, I don't know what happened because I was someone else on my team helping her, but we started sending her to law firms and they were interviewing. I was like, the hell's going on? I'm not trying to be rude and I'm not saying, but when I started talking to her, when she started getting interviews, I was like, and she was unemployed, Bob, still unemployed. I was like, what's going on here? Like, why is her interviewing? And again, I'm not being rude. I'm not saying she was a bad person or anything, but she was in a position where she was unemployed. She failed the bar 6 times. She'd gotten fired from her job, been a cook for, I don't know, 6 or 8 years, and then had gotten fired from that and then had a restaurant fail. So there's not a lot of good stuff going on here. But she had interest or, I don't know, different types of pastry on her resume. So meanwhile, I get her, I don't know, 2 interviews. She goes in and gets a job offer. Again, with decent law firms, these firms are interested in talking to her. And she doesn't take any of my jobs because she's got like 3 or 4 other jobs that she's done. And the jobs paid well. It paid like, they were paid well. When I say they were, I think close to $200,000 a year for a second year stuff. I was like, this is just freaking insane. And the job that I got her they were maybe 130 to 140 or something, which I thought was pretty good. So, well, this person, like with this just ridiculous, like train wreck with a resume, everyone thinks they're totally interesting because she's been this chef and she's run this restaurant. Isn't that fantastic? It must have given her all these skills about managing people, or what a great idea and I don't know. I'd rarely seen anything like this. And that was all because we're seeing other things that were interesting on her resume, unicycle racing, just something fun like that. But this all happened because of her personality. It made absolutely no sense to me. To this day, that crazy that this happened. People want to have people that they're relatable to. If you think about this woman that was a cook and everything, you think about what it's like someone being a restaurant owner and going back to the practice of law. That's different than being someone who's a stiff liar and goes into an interview and doesn't make people comfortable and doesn't engage with them. That's what I saw when I was interviewing these people from UCLA, like I talked to you about earlier. That was like October, December, after they graduated, and maybe May, still didn't have jobs. They just didn't have a good vibe. They didn't connect. They make people uncomfortable. And that's one of the things too, by the way, the people that are often the most problems, the people that sue employers, the end up being the people that sue employers, or the people that do things wrong, are often the people that aren't able to connect with and don't have personalities. I think about the guy with the can. That you think that's comfortable. You think this is ridiculous. I can't believe this person is very funny, and we like them. Or the woman that was with the cook, and you think about that. That's someone who's approachable. It's just different. And the person, she obviously had good personality skills because she was able to get these jobs or make people find her and connect with her. She probably hadn't developed that while running a business and having a person starting a restaurant, no customer, manager, all these things. So it was something that she was able to develop, and that's a personality, and that works. And even in the face of, again, failing the bar 6 times, spending 7 or 8 years doing something completely different from the practice of law, and getting a job at a good firm and getting fired from doing this is great, and this is what you can do. And again, I'm not saying you do, but imagine what you do happens if you're doing well. And people are human. They want to deal with people that they think are interesting. They want to deal with people that are different. They want to deal with people that have something that sticks out about them. And this is what people are thinking about when they're hiring. People want to be human. They want to see the person that's behind the numbers and all the stuff. They want that they can communicate with that person. They need to feel some sort of connection that's different and makes them interesting. And if you can do that, you're going to do very well. You have to have something that comes across to people and is very effective. So I had started when I was 18, and I did it till I was maybe 27. So I did almost for a decade. I had started this asphalt ceiling service and then maintenance service, not knowing anything about how to do it. And same thing I did with this business. I started a long time ago, not knowing how to do it, but I used to sell these asphalt services door to door. And I did it for a long time, and I was very good at it. I learned how to do it, and I had very good results. And I didn't actually start doing well until I learned how to sell and brought some personality to work. Now, I'll tell you something that's very interesting. So and this is relevant to you potentially getting a job. I started off where I would buy these ads that I don't know what it's called. Pennies. No, I don't know what it's called. They would take 100 or 200 open like coupons and things, and they put them in the mail, and they would send them out to all of the people in a different zip code. And they would take things for window washing or drape or insurance, whatever. They would have all these little ads that were on these little pieces of paper, and they would put them in an envelope, and they would send them all out to people in your zip code. And so I saved up money. I was young, I was in high school, and spent like a couple $1,000 sending these out to everybody in the city where I wanted to get it. And I remembered very well after doing that, I only got one call, and in response to that call, I didn't get to work. The person was considering other estimates and wanted to get mine and go from there. So that was what happened with that. So nothing ended up happening. But I originally then I started going out after doing this, and that didn't work. I would show up at someone's door and I'd say, my name's Harrison Barnes. I'd like to know if you're interested in having your asphalt or your deal. And people would just say, no, one after another. I would call for a job. I'd be very curious to have a shared business. I'm a business owner. I can help her. People were just saying over and over. In fact, if you did that would be nice. Sometimes I gave them brochures and things, but everybody would say no. And it's because I was just some average person showing up, offering asphalt repair. And then I started changing my approach. I'd say, my name's Harrison. Recognize me. I'm usually covered with tar. I'm sure you've seen me around our neighborhood, do driveways and so forth. And I would say something along, I would just give some personal insight into something and say I had a difficult time with a girlfriend and actually have to work. Even though I'm dealing with that, here I am. And I would put in some personality of what I was saying, and I would tell people this stuff. And instead of thinking I was insane, they might open up a conversation, and I would do it in a way where I would bond with a person, and they might ask me, I've seen people with all this tar, how to get it off. And I talk about how I gasoline. And then I might discuss neighbors. And then I would talk about why I like one of the neighbors, how interesting they were. And then begin to do a conversation about that for the people that I was talking to. And people loved them because all these people were living in these houses and they didn't know a lot about neighbors. So it was almost like I was giving them a sense of connection. And then I was being funny. And so there was always a lot of personality that was brought into it. And I would do that with showing up or just asking for something or sending something in the mail, hoping everyone call. I would show up to people's homes and look like I was confident enough, but I would talk about things that were just had nothing to do with what I was doing. And it was fun. And I would do other things too. Like I used to dress up. I would wear a tie, but it was short, which is just ridiculous. And just really come across as someone that looking good and professional. But I would go out and I would get to work. I learned this very quickly how to do it. So I got very good at this. I almost didn't go to law school because of it, but I went from, and I still can't believe how profitable this was. And I went from making maybe $1,000 a week getting the occasional job to refusing to leave my home unless the work was over $5,000 for a day. I mean, I wouldn't even leave. I guess my yard is the better way to put it. Let's restart like to doing over $10,000. So I wouldn't leave my property without doing that much work. And I was able to do that by the time I was 20 years old. Me just take some random kid with knowing nothing about this type of business and trying to go out and sell people, residential homeowners on this product. So from the time the ability to do this, becoming someone who's doing $30,000, $40,000 a week business when I was 20, because of this personality, and then what would happen, the reason they got so much better is that people look forward to seeing it. I would come by and they would be excited. And then I might take $100 off for free, I used to do things like I'd show up and someone would say their spouse died and they're having a hard time, and I would do their driveway for free for years and just help people. And people started liking me, thinking this very interesting. And so this huge personality that I was able to do. And you can do this too. Like you have to think about what did I do when I was so young to do this? And moreover, in like Detroit, in the middle of a recession, in nice neighborhoods, you need to understand how to have a personality and to sell yourself and everything. You need to stand for something to be different, because if you're not, you're going to be just like the people that I'm talking about, the kids from UCLA that weren't getting jobs and so forth. I had this, typically the people who don't have personalities are the people that lack kind of an enthusiasm for whatever they're doing. They don't, nothing comes across about them that's particularly interesting or different. And they often just sit on the sideline almost as critics and are there, not necessarily with any level of enthusiasm, and nothing really happens. I had experienced several years ago, I don't know, 10 years ago or something. I was working for this very prestigious law firm, really prestigious. And they had a national presence. There was a small office in LA, and that office had maybe attorneys in it. And so out of those 3 attorneys, they had the credible qualifications. Like one of them, Yale, and then had a PhD or MIT and something. They were just off the chart. And so I talked to them about expanding their office. I was doing this for different offices. I talked to them about expanding their office. And so I met with them, and they were like very critical as we write this article of yours, and we didn't like it. And our office is doing just fine, and I don't know why you're here. And again, it's 3 attorneys. And out of those 3 attorneys, one of them was making something like $1.5 million a year and billed 400 hours the previous year. So this office was really in trouble. These guys were just very critical and didn't have any enthusiasm, or were just there critiquing me. And so I called up the attorney that hired me, and he was a very young partner. He was like mid-30s, and he had a big book of business. And he was actually supporting these guys. And these guys were much more senior than him. And they were in 50s or late 40s. And he couldn't believe it that they acted that way. And he said that I don't really appreciate it, because both of them, 2 of the partners that were with me, are getting all their work from me. And his personality was interested in all these things, and which is a very interesting attorney, and stood for something like file these funny big lawsuit. So it was just different. The people that are cheeks and sitting on the sidelines and are often even with good qualifications, don't have a great personality, and that ends up hurting them. People without the best personalities are often critical of those that do. Well, they think this person, they cut them down for one reason or another. And it's fun to read about people, personalities that are different, whatever, getting in trouble, DUIs, getting sued, doing things, porn stars, whatever it is. Those people, you would think that these sorts of things would knock them off the perch, but I think when it does, it actually changes things. People where they start seeing you and your weaknesses, they start identifying with you more. Now, I'm not saying that's always appropriate for a law firm, but it is something that happens. And the people that are able to get people to identify with them to look like something that has candy, whatever, they have special. So when I was 27, I was living and working in not quite northern Michigan, but definitely a couple hours from Detroit. And I wanted to move to Los Angeles. And I thought that was impossible. And I do think it would be impossible today, to be honest with you, because when I was courting from Mr. Judge, it was different. It was a hard job to get. And now I think because of salary increases and so forth, I don't know that it's the same, because people seem to prefer and offer more because of salary. But I thought it was a good job, and I thought I had great qualifications. But I will basically admit to you that moving to Los Angeles from northern Michigan probably would be with no contacts in Los Angeles, never having worked in Los Angeles, would be, in this day and age, next to impossible. I would tell them from a quote out town in Michigan, possibly get the interest of good law firm. It doesn't make it that. And even today, I don't know how if you were looking for a judge in Detroit and you wanted to move there, in Detroit, if you were looking for a circuit court judge and you wanted to move to Los Angeles, it'd be very hard. And that I think it was crazy. I remember when I was leaving the firm, the judge, and I was gonna study the bar and then send out some application like a couple of weeks before going out and taking the bar to a law firm in Los Angeles. I remember the people in the U.S. Attorney's Office, everyone took me out for drink or leaving, and then this is crazy. Like, how are we possibly going to get this possibly about work? And again, that's very, very difficult. And I'm not saying that whether there's anything remarkable about my qualifications, just that's what I decided I wanted to do. And so within a couple weeks, I had gotten lots of jobs in Los Angeles, and it was a bad job market then. And I hadn't, by the time I got into jobs, I guess I hadn't taken bar and everything about it, but it doesn't matter. But anyway, I just went out there on a whim. I wrote all of the best law firms in Los Angeles a letter. I remember it very well, because I was like, I'm not going to sit here and write like a long letter about my experience. When I was in law school, I would go and write these law firms, like these long letters, like when I was just mailing out applications, what made me so special and all those great things I've done, which was the last thing in the world people want to do. They don't want to read a long diatribe of where you're going to do. That doesn't make you stand out. No one cares. And oftentimes it's more than they need. So I wrote a very short letter. I thought, if these long letters aren't working, I just got to boil everything down. I got to stick out if I'm going to get interviewed or a position in Los Angeles, or possible to give me one like I'm there. My letter just said, dear, whatever the hired partner was, I'd like to work for you, sincerely, Harrison Barr. Something along those lines. That's it. That's all I would say. And it sounds ridiculous, but it's very funny when you think about everyone writing these very long letters. That's all I said. And maybe I said P.S., maybe working the highest level and getting the review of them. But that was it. Who needs to give a lot of information? That's all you need to say. This particular letter, and I'm not saying that you should use it, but this particular letter, what else do you need to say? That's what a letter says. I'd like to work for you. Then you give the person your resume. And again, I'd written long letters before, but I figured what better way to get a position than to just make a very quick part like that, because it get people's attention. And then I had other things on there that were stupid, but it was funny, like talking about this asphalt company, like with all these employees and things, which just completely people like, what the hell is this, when they're looking at a legal resume. And so that probably, I wouldn't recommend that today, but that, I think that helped me get interviews too, because it just painted the picture of this is ridiculous. Like this person that looks like they study a lot and has got this resume that has this stuff. So I got lots of calls, I got lots of jobs. And again, this is not because there was anything remarkable about my resume that distinguished me from people that were already from Los Angeles, taking the bar, and that's what happened. So I went on interviews and they all mentioned my cover letter, almost everyone. And people thought it was funny when you looked at my resume and looked, well, as that. Again, there was no reason that I should have been hired by any of these people, because there's plenty of people that from LA that are taking the bar that have been qualifications, work for judges or whatever. But having a personality on your resume or doing things that give you a personality are going to make a huge difference. When I was purchased, I tripled my salary. I didn't go to the beach each weekend. I guess I had that option. I hardly ever did that, but I got out of the whole client and like moving expenses. Then I got to be, so anyway, I got paid. I studied the bar exam and I was getting a starting bonus. And none of this would have happened had I not injected any type of personality into what I was doing. And so there's all sorts of ways to do this. If you're able to convince your personality and do wonders for you, having a personality will help you sell. And it starts with your personality, and the personality you have that comes through, people want to identify. And then you're able to sell. You need to figure out how to stand out as someone who's different and someone who is there's a lot of personality. There's this kind of presumption. And I think that a lot of times when people come out of there's different ways of looking at being a lawyer. Like you can look at being a lawyer working for UPS, being in a union, expecting to get paid a certain amount of money for how long time you've been there. Or you can look at it like who works in a factory and gets paid a certain amount of money per hour. And then you look at it that way. Frankly, a lot of people do. I was working on an article yesterday or the day before talking about salary negotiation. So many people go into salary negotiation where they think, oh, it's about just how much money I'm going to make. It has nothing to do with working with people you like, with possibly advancement, with the ability to have your clients, with working someplace secure and where you can work there for a long time and do well. People don't bring that stuff up and they just think about money, just like you might working in a factory and that's where they're at. But people that think about life are different and know that they'll get advanced. There's just different types of ways for jobs, resumes to review and to review all day. But there was one resume that I received a few days ago, and his subject line, something like the great John Smith, and I thought it was very funny. And I didn't have any confirm, but I thought that just based on what you wrote, bring him a writing. Now, I'm not saying that's what you should do when you're applying to jobs. So what I'm saying is you should do something that gets people's attention, that makes you stand out or makes you unique. And if you're able to do that and you have a personality through your application materials, then you're going to do very well in any type of job you look for. And people that have the biggest personalities win every single time. They're able to stand out in good jobs. People are able to connect with them, and the law firms want to hire people with the best personality, something that's going to sell you and get you a dollar every time. There's all sorts of like sales training or Dale Carnegie sales training. There are all these sales training courses, and there's all those different ways to sell things or how to get ahead in sales. But in reality, the best way, I'm not trying to say that you can't sell people by getting them to commit to do different things. I did the real estate agent, came over 3 times and got a tour. They're getting what's called sunk costs. So you're many different based on how much effort they put in and getting something that other people wouldn't. That's a sales strategy. There are sales strategies, but in reality, it's the personality of the person applying for a job that sells them. If that personality is what's going to get you clients is what's going to make you different. Because obviously the most important thing for you to do is be confident at whatever you're doing. You have to be very confident, but you can't go through your life and your career by being like those attorneys that told you about in Texas that never got any real business and they had great jobs, but no personality, nothing, just flat. And you can't do that. You need some sort of spirit. I thought it was very funny. I was in a gas station like last week, and this guy came up to me, and I almost felt like it was very interesting message. And he said, "You help me out or whatever." And I said, "Yeah." And I gave him $5 or whatever. He said, "Thank you." And he said, "I've lost everything." He was drunk. And he said, "I lost everything. I just don't know what to do, but at least I've got my soul." He said, "At least I got my soul." And he wandered off, and this guy came out of the gas station behind the desk and started pushing him away and making him leave. But I thought that was very funny. At least I have my soul. And so there needs to be some source, but you need to have a soul, and you need something behind you that's unusual that makes people gravitate toward. You don't want to be like the attorneys in Texas they told you about. You don't want to be the attorneys that have any work that I told you about that were senior, this incredibly prestigious firm. You don't want to be like the attorneys graduated from UCLA that had no passion, also no personality. You want to be whatever it is. You want to have a personality. And so you're using your personality helps you stand out and sell yourself. I could talk to you all day about different ways of selling things. I'm not even sure that I don't think any of those ways are actually even that relevant, because your personality is what makes things happen, and it makes people like you. There was another partner I was talking to, and this was actually pretty recently. And I think it's about last time I spoke to him, it's like a month, and he was looking for people, and he was young and the national head of recruiting of a big 800-person law firm. And I was talking to him, and I saw there was this article about him in some music magazine, because it talked about his band and playing this stuff. This is ridiculous. And I asked him if I could write an article about him. And I wrote an article about him in one of these publications that we have been talking about how he was in this rock band. And not only was in this rock band, but he drove like a 20-year-old pickup truck or something. He was very interesting. So I brought all that up and I wrote this article about him. And this is someone that's different. He stands out and he's unusual. And that's who people that are like that are the ones that we're interested in. People want to talk. We want people that are interesting, and that sells them. We want people to be able to talk about people on the soundbite. Say, this person that, this person this. So you need to have a personality that comes through. And then what I'm really trying to make sure you understand is that you have to, every brand out there, every person that's the most successful, we have something that comes to be associated with that makes them interesting. Law firms, attorneys need to be that often to do well. You certainly can do well in a law firm being a clinician or doing things a certain way, but the best way to be really, truly successful is to have something that's unusual about yourself that stands out. If you have that, and a personality that can come through. Now, your personality doesn't need to be necessarily about things outside of the law. Your personality can be related to your practice area, or the types of work you like to do, the types of cases. Sometimes people will specialize and be very interested in certain types of cases. That's okay too. Whatever we do, but you want to have some sort of something about you that makes you memorable and normal. Before I end this, I just want to bring up one quick point. When I was young, I've told this story before, but there was a partner that was making a presentation about, he was a huge business generator. He was making a presentation about bringing in business. And one thing he said that was very funny, he said the guy that has the most business in LA is also probably one of the biggest nerds in LA. Meaning no one cares if you're a big nerd. It's just that's what you can say about the person. They're a total nerd, but you have a total nerd working on your things, and that's something to remember. So that is the webinar. We'll take a quick break, and then when I come back, I'll do questions. And this is a live webinar. I will answer as many questions as people have, so we'll get through. Thank you. Let's take a quick break, 1 or 2 minutes. will become that. I will do. The questions can be about, they'll have to be about the sport presentation. There would be like questions of presentation, but they can be about anything that's relevant to your career or any question you have about that. And I'll stay as long as I need. And just another thing, a lot of the questions that I would be answering that are anonymous, then in terms of the question, I'm not going to share your name, right? All right, so let's see. First form, Richard. Okay, I consider myself to be introverted, finding an author, find it challenging to keep more extroverted colleagues who naturally excel at social settings. How can I use my introverted personality in a law firm? Okay, so in law firms, there's typically three types of people. They're called minders, grinders, and binders. What that means is the minders are the kind of are basically the admin people or managing partners and things like that watch people and manage they manage the paralegals, they manage the attorneys, they manage different sorts of people in the firm doing work. And then you have grinders, which are always people doing the work, people doing the work. And then you have binders, who are typically people bringing. Those are typically the three types of attorneys that are in law firms. And those are the three types of attorneys that are in law firms. And in general, you're going to fall on the side of one or the other. Typically, people that get into admin are people that people like, but they may not necessarily have a lot of work, and they're just doing that. So then binders is a natural type of personality. So if you're a grinder, your role is to succeed, and you can't bring in work, which you may not be able to, you need to get close to binder. So that's really the job. So every binder out there has people that hand off the work to. They're very proud of. You go into a firm, like I've had this experience before. I go into a firm to ask them if they can potentially represent me in a certain case, and they'll say, sure, you'll talk to the binder will smile and look very professional and so forth. And then they will often bring in this grinder and will say, this person who has these great qualifications and so forth. And then they will introduce you to the grinder. Grinders can have great careers. Even if they're not never bringing business. But what the grinders do is they're able to get very close to binders and people that have the work. Then the binder wants to use them forever. Binder get very attached to them. So almost all firms, if you look very binders have trusted. Like that, I remember when I was working for this judge based in Michigan, you would always do the same kind of thing. Would have an attorney come in that would have someone close to another more older attorney that kind of brought all the work with him. A binder came into court with him all the time. The binder might talk to the judge or whatever, but the binder would be the one that's doing all the work. So you see this you see this in every major firm. The people that are bringing in the business, people bringing the work will also work, but most of that, most binders will have grinding work. And it's like that in every market of the country. So if you think that you're very introverted, then all you need to do is you need to get very close to someone who's bringing in the work, or preferably multiple people. And if you do that and you get to be the trusted person of a really good binder, that binder will keep you around to protect you your whole career. If the people with the most business, often when they're moving firms, the binders will always demand to take one or two grinders because they know the type of work that person wants, that person does. They want to demand that they're there. And they, like I said, will often follow them throughout their entire career. It's very interesting how that works. That's something just to be aware. Now, I wanted to make a couple other quick points that are very important. If you are a grinder, you can often become a partner in a law firm. People also become partners by being very good grinders, meaning build the most hours, give the best work. So and that's what's expected. So you can be very introverted and do that, and that's perfectly fine. but that typically someone that's a grinder will do that. But the best grinders will always get binders to give them all the work. You can literally be a grinder your whole career. You are able to get close to a really good binder. And then again, almost all binders have non-equity partner counsel grinders that are climbing. Okay, as a junior associate in a law firm, I'm keen to distinguish myself early in my career. I've been given opportunities to climb meetings, participate in business development activity, but I often feel overshadowed by more senior colleagues. My personality tends to be more reserved, which affects my confidence in these settings. How can I effectively communicate my value to clients and senior partners without seeming overly assertive or saying that? Yes, as a junior associate, you're not expected to have any idea about how to develop business. As a matter of fact, your only role in these meetings is they'll do the work or something, or that they brag about your educational accomplishments for client, whatever, or you'll take notes and be able to give the partners back stuff that they may have missed, or you may help them with different things. So you have no reason to distinguish yourself by attending client meetings, going on business development. The only thing you should be doing is watching. You are not going to be expecting to develop business for several more years. You just need to watch what people are doing and learn, and you will learn. Well, even though you're not necessarily there, you're not at that point in your career, you will learn how to do all these things by being in these meetings, which pick up and learn. There's nothing wrong with being reserved. You should not have confidence in these sort of settings because you have no idea what you're doing. All you can do is show up and you'll make sure you understand everything being said, and then use that information to help people giving you work in the future. The last thing in the world you want to do is to go into these meetings and communicate your value to the client unless you're asked a question and a senior associate. Everyone knows that you're a junior attorney. No one expects you to impress clients. They expect you to do work. The senior partners are only impressed with you to the extent you do good work. Your job as a junior associate, so this is something that a lot of people may not realize, but it's actually the most important thing, is really you are only there to get training. Getting paid is a bonus. So what does that mean? Junior associates are not expected to get business or to develop clients. You're at one stage of your career where your job is just to be a soldier. No one cares about all this other stuff. You're a soldier who follows orders. That's it. We need to be soldier as a junior associate. And that's really your only responsibility, to be a soldier, and then to learn about what others are doing. You absorb everything by osmosis and you see how other people were doing things, interesting or not, but that's really the only thing that's important as a junior associate, is to try to do the best work you can, to build the most hours, and not get laid off. Next question. This person said, I am a new non-equity shareholder with no business. I like what you're saying about having personality. I don't know much about business development or analysis or remote seminar or anything that you recommend for further learning. Yes. The biggest way there's a lot of different ways to get business. You can read articles. There's a lot of different ways to get business as a non-equity shareholder. But the most important thing, obviously, personality you can understand, but the most important thing, and really the only thing, is to be found. So you need to be seen. How do you do that? Well, and again, this is what I learned 30 years of this. So how do people do? So what do you do? What do you do to be seen in the brand? The first thing is that you go so it could be joining an organization. It could be, there could be a franchise, whatever. Then one of the things that people used to do, which is pretty simple, is you find, if you're a litigator, find out who needs to, find out who needs. That's one way as a litigator. So you can you can write papers in a particular system that looks very well. People often join boards. So I'd had one thing happen where I was once working on this case of this thing down at community hospital or something. And there had been a partner in this firm I worked in that lived in Downey, board of this, but people join board, and then they're seeing that, right? People, presentations. One of the things that people do, are LinkedIn, try like clients a lot. People will write articles about their practice area for legal publications, areas or legal publications. People will offer to give advice to companies and things for issues based on solicited. They will create blogs or maybe just series from ways that people for this work. They often will, there was years ago, there was a business development course for attorneys that was very popular and they were charging thousands of dollars to take it. And essentially what it was like, write down 100 to 200 people, and stay in touch with. That's it. But and these people will know you're a liar or you are a liar. And over time, for business years, that means what that means is those 100 people will know people. Each of those 100 people or whatever know 100 people, and they will know people that are need corporate work or need key work or need food, need real estate transactional work, whatever. And if you stay in touch with those people without even asking for business, they may ask what you do, but we stay in touch with them just over time, then those people eventually will refer people to you. It works. And this strategy, by the way, is one of the oldest, most proven tactics. Now, this is not something you can do once, forget about it. You can't just contact them once. You have to continually stay in touch with them. So that's really one of the most important things. I did an interview once. We used to send out a 5-page update about what he was doing personally with his family in his cases throughout the year. It was very entertaining with pictures and things, and send it out. People hardly even knew that got business. So you have to learn how to be found and seen. And honestly, that's one of the most important things that you can do is be seen by people that need your work. And the easiest way, of course, is it's difficult to. You could join associations. You could write papers that are about a unique legal issue. You could give a presentation. People that I've seen that are very good at this will often just have a high level of enthusiasm for something. And with that enthusiasm, that will enable them to bring in work. But they're seen. So you need to be seen. Think about what is a personal injury? So what is a personal injury, by the way, is 95% bringing in the case. They go to bust it, advertise, Google keyword, just what Google at, Facebook, whatever. So they're doing everything they can to be seen. Now that's not going to be always the best thing. That's not always going to be the best for someone like corporate attorney. The principle, hey, you need to be seen. So anybody that wants to succeed has to be seen. Now I'll just offer one further thing. Is that's having a personality in your team is even more interesting. If someone has a personality in LA, someone would call themselves around law, different personal injury attorneys will call them different things. But the better you are being seen, the better off you're going to be. So this, by the way, is just so everyone understands, being seen, all you need to do to become a successful binder. The more you're seen, more people will come to you. Unfortunately, most people, I understand this person said here, people say, oh, I'm more reserved, introverted. You can still be seen if you're introverted or you're reserved, but you just need to be seen. And that's all you need to do. If you want to be a politician, you can't just hide out and hope people find you. You have to go to the rally and want to be seen. For anybody that's successful in anything, it's always good. Given the shift to virtual interviews and remote work, I find it harder to convey my personality and build rapport through the screen. What are some effective ways to ensure that my personality stands out during virtual interviews and remote client meetings, especially for providing another in-person interviews are limited? So people are visual, kinetic, and auditory. So these are the 3 types of people. For visual means if you're talking to someone visual, they will say, I see what you mean. If they're kinetic, they'll say, that sounds like along those words. So you can just see these kind of words that are. I'll just give you some examples. And I'm just, when you're talking to people, my first piece of advice is very simple. Everyone will talk in one way or another. So when you're in a virtual interview, you want to be able to see how the person's talk. So you mirror mirror talk. I've noticed is very interesting. When I was telling you about this very successful real estate agent, I noticed when I was talking to him, if I would go like this, she would go like this, the pocket. If I, make the facial, let's call it neuro-linguistic programming, which is really what's talked about. But I also noticed that when I was talking to this Navy SEALs person not too long ago at a trip to base here, but he did, men are talking to the exact same thing. The better you can communicate with people based on understanding whether they're communicating, better. So when you're trying to build rapport with your strain, if you figure out how to talk, everyone will talk a certain way. Let's say I feel, it sounds like, most people are that one way or another. You should try to mirror that. Also with remote work, it's very funny. Very few people that interview with law firms, I don't know why, you should be putting on a full suit. You should always dress up, or women look good for the interviews. The same thing with me. You want to be you also want to always be early. So you show up several minutes early to the interview. And then body language is, yes, it's limited, but body language is only useful if you're trying to do different things. So that more important. The other thing I would say too, just about these virtual interviews and so forth, is that you still need to put yourself in a position where you're excited to talk to the person. So a lot of times people just show up to these interviews with no agenda. So you need to have an agenda. You need to show up with some sort of agenda. What does that mean? That means when you show up, you think my goal is to what? To make person like our father says, an employer be humble, like they want to work. So one of the things that people that do very well in your careers do is they, regardless of whether it's a client or if it's an employer, they're always very humble. They come across as wanting to really work with that person, enthusiastic about it. You get the sense when you're dealing with them that they're really going to put your best interests at heart. They're not going to try to take advantage of you. They're not going to they're not going to be concerned about yourself. They're going to be more concerned. They're not going to be overly concerned with themselves. They're going to be more concerned with you and what you want. I had this most bizarre interview this morning. I was meeting with this woman that wanted to be in a recruiter relations or candidate relations job at the BCG. And her job essentially was going to be to talk to candidates after they got interviews and then talk to the firms to help out with scheduling and kind of getting everyone on the same page. And she said the most amazing thing, I couldn't believe it. She had left her current job, and I asked why. And she said, I needed better hours because I have a 7-year-old daughter and I need to prioritize spending time with her. And I said, that's okay. And so then I asked her, actually, she was still at her current job, but leaving. And I said, what's your current schedule like now? And she said, I get up at 5 and I'm done my job at 5. I would work 7 in the morning and they need the rest of the day to do my thing. And I couldn't believe it. I was like, how is that even possible? Someone to get a job on her agenda. And she said that and after asking me what I needed, so that when you show up to an interview, you have to tell the person basically, you have to try to get what does that mean? I mean, think about a person, what you like about them or whatever person you and it's just like a good actor who communicate that or you or how you do that. And then you connect with the person. I want to help you. You stick out or whatever. The most important thing you can do is just express an eagerness to work. And then you need to be humble. I'm ready to learn and do what you want. And then I want to work. And I don't know who work hard and it would be me. I don't know who you are asking this question, but unfortunately, a lot of young people don't care about it. They're more concerned about their personal lives, their free time, they're working on their terms and not really hungry to work, like we told you about earlier. And you can be those things, but you're obviously going to lose jobs to people that are. So you need to be able to go into every interview and give people the impression that you're going to work hard. You will not ask questions about remote work. You will not ask questions about hours. You will not ask questions about taking certain days off each month. You will not ask questions about being able to work less hours. You will not ask questions about things that are important to you and not important to the employer. You will not, anytime you do that, you can do that. That job doesn't pay anything and there's never going to get any other applicants, but people want to hire people to make them feel good about themselves. People want to hire people that want to work hard. People want to hire people that are humble and will take direction. A lot of times when they reason, I know everything about this and everything about that, and they're not humble. And the most important thing is you make people you're speaking with feel important, right? You need to make people feel important. What does that mean? It means connecting with them, not, I remember I've been in law firms before, and there's always partners there and associates that may be socially awkward, not have business, but they're more important. So you need to make them feel important. If it's you come in, you have this giant personality and look like someone that's going to run all over them and represents the people that they've had the most trouble with in their personal lives as long as they've been around, then that's their business lives. That's not going to help you. So you need to be respectful, make people feel good about themselves, and come in and build rapport that way. If you make people feel good about themselves, you tell people what they want to hear. You know something about the firm and what the person does. This is all going to help you a great deal. And the other thing too, that a lot of people don't understand is when you go into interviewer should be speaking 80% of the time. And preferably in thinking about themselves or whatever, person should be speaking about themselves. Doesn't always happen, but you want the interviewer speaking a lot. So I was talking to someone yesterday, for example, his partner, and I only had a half-hour call, and I was just, do you have any business? And we went in this 10-minute diatribe saying, oh, I have these people I could develop business from, people that are doing this and doing that. This one thing might. And I was like, okay, the answer is no. You can't sit here and no, but I hope to bring in business. You can't sit here and do like a 10-minute, launch into a 10-minute discussion about how you have a business. If I get something, you just have to be very, very direct. So when you go into an interview, if you want to be, you also need to be very direct with your answers. And you want to basically get people that can work hard and follow orders and do whatever it takes to do a good job. And then also communicate confidence, and then the final thing is like be the sort of person a client hire as well. What does that mean? So when you're working for a big firm, your goal essentially is to be somebody that the client are be interested in hiring. So that just means you're essentially associates, non-equity partner, work for partners, and partners that work for partner that are their clients. That's hopefully that you're bringing your own. So that's all. When you're working for any law firm, you have to be the sort of person that the client would want to hire. Simple with that. But you have to come across in the same way that you would come across as if someone you just come in. I know this is a lot of but I wanted on this topic is when you go into virtual interviews, you really need to be much better. Someone asked who was going to be recording this session. Be recorded, I think it'll go live in the probably that week or basically. Due to various personal and professional reasons, I've changed jobs multiple times in the past 3 years. While each move is strategic, I worry that potential employers may view me liable. I'm finding salesmanship to address and overcome the stigma associated with frequent job change. What are some ways to remove positively and demonstrate my valid? Okay, so the first thing is like when you things that may not be the word a lot, maybe when things are rough or challenging, whatever. So then it also says that client cannot depend clients the firm deal with relieving, so maybe someone else needs to their safety behind that. And then partners firm will not be here. Sorry, this playing out. And then you will hurt morale of the firm, hurt morale that's around. Never take work there, like So this is sometimes people who do this, many people, substance abuse problem. So me went and found out the things are, and again, if you're someone with substance abuse problems, or people, just use your words to self out over time for rehab and stuff. But the point is that when these things are happening, with if you're leaving firms too often, these are not always that are positive, because your idea might be, well, I left to go to a better firm or something that more match my interests, but then you can always go to a better firm. You can always go to some place to match your interests better. I don't know how many jobs move to, but if you're moving every 6 months, that's a little scary at firms. So what do you do if you're moving too often? One of the things you might want to do, consider if you really want to work with people or have people that, again, you could decide this your first year of practice. It doesn't matter. Some people don't like to work around people and a little bit prefer to have their own firms. And that may be you. Some people don't like practicing law. They just think about it. They don't like it. So some people find it difficult to get along in different employment arrangements, work with other people. And there's all sorts of things that can happen that aren't really that big of a deal. Obviously, anyone that ever started a law firm, didn't like work for another law. So this is, a lot of this is maybe issues that you're uncomfortable with. Sometimes people will leave firms and just tell you the reason. They're uncomfortable with criticism, or they are uncomfortable being in an office and work regular hours, or there's all sorts of reasons you need it. So I don't know that it's something really for you to worry about. So how do you sell yourself on getting a new position? Anytime you're looking for a job. So this is another important point that everyone should realize. So anytime you are looking for a job or a good job, we need to consider why you're the best applicant, or why are you the best applicant? Someone that's left there for like every 6 months for 2 years, the best applicant. What makes you the best applicant of all those people? So if you were considering someone that worked in your firm, if someone had worked in their last job for 6 months, the one before that 6 months, the one before that 6 months, you would take a look at that and you would realize that this person is probably going to leave again. That's what you would think. So would you be the best applicant? So the only way you're the best applicant is that are not a lot of people like you, or not a lot of people find work. So one of the things that I've done in my career, art people, is I send people to firms without openings. That's one of the things you can do. Now, in terms of strategic moves you were talking about, there are lots of reasons for strategic moves, and I don't know what your specific reasons are, but there's actually very good reasons for some strategic moves. So one example might be you started off in general intellectual property work, but you wanted to be a patent attorney. The firm you were at didn't have a lot of patent work, so you went to a firm that had some patent work, lost their patent work, bigger firm that had patent work, but you wanted to do hard science, electrical engineering related patent work, and they had a mix of that in life sciences. Sometimes with very reasons for move, and you can, or the firm you were at dissolve, and the next one you're at to dissolve. So sometimes there's very good reasons for moves, but in most cases, the reasons for moving aren't really good enough. So that ends up holding you back. So you need to figure out, how do you answer these questions and realize that these are all the things that people are thinking about when you move too often. I actually like this article. And then you have to think about what makes you the best applicant for this job. Because I'll guarantee you that most law firms have an open, will hire someone that's the best applicant. So sometimes you get the best applicant just by having the best qualifications. I saw one firm that I thought was really dumb. They had this job. It was a mid-sized firm in Los Angeles, and they had this job for a candidate that it's an additional type of corporate law from big cap companies. And they decided they were going to hire this person who was a stellar applicant out of one of the best, largest law firms in Los Angeles. And I knew that they hired that person, they would leave very quickly and find a bigger firm with opportunities. The candidate they hired wasn't for me, but they just kept doing that over and over. Even though they hired for best applicant, for some firms, I guess the one would be the best applicant is the person with the best paper qualification. And they're willing to overlook all those different things. But hiring someone that likely to leave is just not smart for firms. So you can often get jobs by, in my opinion, like how do you I'm the best applicant. You apply to markets. They apply to firms or education. That's how you, a lot of time find practice. Okay, let's see what I hear next. The recent lots of graduate take some rejections despite having strong potential in internships or reputable firms. Each rejection is impacting confidence, making it harder to present myself assertively in subsequent interviews. What mindset shifts or techniques can I adopt for maintaining resilient and confident in my job search? How can I use these rejections as learning opportunities to improve my salesmanship in future interviews? So you may be not surprised to learn that when companies have products, they dealership for selling Fords, put ads on television and online and all these different things, and newspaper and trying to get people to drive or buy one of their cars, and people get rejected repeatedly. But I thought it was funny that Elon Musk used to post on Twitter pictures of spaceships and things that he was for rockets about being exploding, but all hell breaking. I've seen, I don't know how much people that succeed often fail again and again. One book that I'd recommend everybody read, you read it again and again, Think Grow Rich. There are all these great stories about persistence, and it's a very known book. And you can actually find it for free online, but very good book. They have great chapter. They have a great chapter about persistence. And people that proceed always honestly will succeed. So you need to fully learning about the importance of persistence. So you should not take rejection as a law graduate or whatever strong credentials. You obviously got an internship in a way. If you're confident, you need to just keep going. So develop self-confidence. There are so many different ways to develop self-confidence. You can do it through, actually, I think Rich has self-confidence, but confidence that comes with finding the right firm for you and learning about things you may have done in the past that didn't work. You have to, figure out what that is. But you just have to keep trying. The more and more rejections, the more you learn how to change your approach. And so you just keep pushing forward. There's obviously something that you give you in your interviews that people don't like. What I would say is the common thing is not putting yourself in the shoes of the employer. And what does that mean? Cost, more interest in your needs than the employer. So you need to hear to the employer about is the person much more interested in giving them what they want, paid hours, about work, whatever, or time off, whatever makes it seem your needs is part of theirs. You just need to hear someone that is just there, willing to do whatever the frickin' thing, whatever they need. I will work like crazy. I'll give you deliver, all that sort of thing. You need to hear where that impression when they talk to you. If you do that, you're going to be with them. And again, this goes for all young attorneys. I talk to law firms all day long and they say young attorneys don't want to work and this and that. And you just have to get it through your head that people that are see in your generation are the ones that are work the hardest. Give employers and clients more of a want to. If you're a client, why would you want to go to an attorney that had all their needs? That's crazy. So you have to think about every employer that you talk to as a potential client. I specialize in maritime, niche area, limited all. I have substantial experience, a substantial network. I find it hard to differentiate myself from other experienced candidates. How do I use salesmanship to effectively differentiate myself? Niche legal market like maritime law. What specific tactics can I use to highlight my skills and experience to potential work? So I don't know like how senior you are. I don't know anything about your background specifically. One of the things, all practice areas I want to make everyone really aware of is what do people do that are able to get the most jobs generally do. And one of the things they do, a couple of things they do is what you have, they have focused resumes on their practice areas. So they look very focused on what they do, which helps a lot. Their experience on their resume report comes across as very focused, in their practice area. They also have a lot of enthusiasm. The people that do the best will often have a transaction sheet, their corporate attorney that is appended to their resume that kind of talks about all the different deals and things they've done. Litigation attorneys will often have sheets in the back of their resume that talk about the bigger litigation things. They'll talk about the same thing with real estate attorneys and patent attorneys. Anybody who looks enthusiastic about their practice there will often have a one-page resume, but then they might have a 2 or 3 page with transaction. Well, that's very, and if you want to differentiate yourself, that's one of the smartest do is to look like someone that looks enthusiastic compared to other people. So that's one. The other thing you need to do to differentiate yourself is to make sure that your resume is focused only on your practice area, looks the most focused. Then the other thing you want to do is if you're looking for positions, then you want to apply to firms that don't have openings, especially maritime law. I'm familiar with that practice area. I'm in my career, at least in the maritime industry. So transaction, activity sheet. So most people, this shows interest and commitment. So what does that mean? And this goes forever. So, once you've been practicing for a few years, you should, because you love what you do, you should have a transaction sheet or things that talk about all the stuff you've done. And very few people do this, but the people who do always get jobs. So you have a second page of your resume, and you use a significant transaction or significant litigation, and you list different things you've been involved. Employers love that. No one gets it. And the ones that do get jobs. So I would definitely encourage you to do that. I would, if I was a maritime attorney, I would be applying to work with other firms that do that and people that do that. I already work with them and just say, hey, this is who I am. If you know anyone that would be interested in some of my experience, I'd love to pass it along. You don't have to actually ask for a job. You can just do that. Wondering if you help me in the right direction. Just or notifies, right? From attorneys doing that. Even write other such different parts. And that's one. I recommend a transaction sheet. I recommend writing people. I recommend perhaps you want to work in a law firm or not. You contact potential client. Then the other thing I would recommend doing, I don't know how well it works, but on Law Crossing, I look for Law Crossing archives where you can, look up old jobs. I don't even work, but I'm just giving some of the and then either go list and ranking, just trying to find as many firms as possible. The biggest way to differentiate yourself is to have a very strong transaction rating sheet. Something that talks about your matters. There's very few people that are psyched up about their practice area. What can you do? Can you write articles? Can you committees? All that stuff. So you have to look like very enthusiastic. And then the final thing I would just say is a set of resume must help me with your practice. So what does that mean? You don't talk about, talk about creative privacy, other privacy, or consent, or other practice areas unrelated to marriage. So sometimes people may do something like they'll have I'm sorry to talk so much about this. They'll have a resume that says drugs offer Florida, or that might have a maritime about the stuff posted with maritime, like 2010. You might have something like that, and then you'll have your next law firm, which might be the Jones law firm, the 2008, and that it might have all this stuff talks about real estate, construction, real estate law, and then all this stuff about that. So that's the corporate, whatever that is. You don't want to talk about anything but maritime. You would just say, instead of that, you would just say associate, whatever, and not talk a lot about your experience. Not list anything. Just make sure that everything that is about maritime. That's all you want people to think. So someone else has a question about the Ontario legal community and how it's different from the U.S. What are the best ways to get a job in Ontario? I have no idea. Sorry, I don't. I'm actually finding I grew up right next to there was a bridge, tunnel going there. I don't know anything about practice in law. All right. Thank you for being on this webinar, everyone. This topic this week, I was a lot more interesting. We talk about billable hours and economics. And so next week should also be a pretty interesting topic. And thank you for being here. Have a good rest of your week.